Good morning. It is good to see all of you. I appreciate Steve leading that song this morning. We really didn't coordinate that, but it was actually what my devotion was going to be about. So if you still have your psalm books, leave it open there to number 358. This is a song, When My Love for Christ Grows Weak. It's a hymn that is designed to remind us of what Christ suffered, both when he prayed in agony, more earnestly in the Garden of Gethsemane, and also when he hung upon the cross of Calvary. And so we think about, the author of this song encourages us to remember these things when our love for Christ grows weak. We could think in Luke chapter 22 and verse 44, where we read about Jesus when he was in the garden, he prayed in agony, it says. Being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. So this hymn points us to the suffering and the death of Christ. In stanza 1, it says that when our love for Christ grows weak, we can stop and think upon Gethsemane. When my love for Christ grows weak, when for deeper faith I seek, then in thought I go to thee, Garden of Gethsemane. We should certainly love Christ because he first loved us, 1 John 4:19. Yet sometimes our love may grow weak. and we may need deeper faith. We're reminded on an occasion in Luke 17:5 when the disciples asked Jesus to increase our faith. Well, how do we increase our faith? Is it some kind of magical thing that happens to us? No. Part of increasing our faith is taking time to study God's Word, to meditate upon His Word, to reflect, and to pray. One of the things I've been doing throughout this pandemic, and Sharon can tell you this all the time, I go out on long walks, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I've got several passages of Scripture I memorize. I do that when I first start walking. Then I go in, then I meditate upon that, then I go in prayer. But all of that is an effort to grow in faith, to be to grow in my relationship with the Lord. Here, is at Gethsemane that the sufferings of Jesus, we see the sufferings of Jesus begin, which led ultimately to His death. Matthew 26, verse 36. Remember, He tells His disciples, "Sit here while I go pray." Stanza 2 says that Gethsemane was the scene of Jesus' weeping and His praying for us. "There I walk amid the shades, while the lingering twilight fades. See that suffering, friendless one, weeping, praying there alone." Of course, we do not literally walk in the shades while the twilight fades, but we can do so in our mind's eye as we read the account of where Jesus said that He was exceedingly sorrowful, even to death, Matthew 26, 37 and 38. He knelt there as a suffering, friendless one, because even the disciples whom He took to watch with Him, what did they do? They slept. Matthew 26, 39 through 41. But yet, while He's there, He's praying for you and He's praying for me. When He says to His Father, "Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but what? Your will be done." He resigned Himself to do the Father's will. Matthew 26, 42 through 44. In stanza 3, it says that when our love for man grows weak, we can think of Calvary. "When my love for man grows weak, when for stronger faith I seek, Hill of Calvary, there I go, to thy scenes of fear and woe." We should love our fellow man because Christ died for him as He did for us, 1 John 4, 20 and 21. Yet, do we not oftentimes find ourselves when our love for man grows weak? Particularly during this pandemic. This can be a time where we can really get on each other's nerves. And we can fail to bear with each other. We have to remember, as 1 John 4, 20 and 21 state, that, he who loves God must love his brother also. It was on Calvary that Jesus shed His blood so that our sins could be forgiven. Luke 23, verse 33. He was called to go to that place called Calvary, that passage says, and He was crucified there between two criminals. Stanza 4 says that Calvary was the scene of Jesus' agony and death for us. "There behold His agony, suffered on the bitter tree. See His anguish, see His faith, love triumphant, still in death." Through the Scripture record, we can behold His agony as He suffered there at Calvary on that bitter tree. In Luke chapter 23, beginning with verse 34. As He's hanging there on the cross, what does He say? "Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. And they divided His garments and cast lots. And the people looked on, but even the rulers with them sneered, saying, He saved others, let Him save Himself, if He is the Christ, the chosen of God. The soldiers also mocked Him, coming and offering Him sour wine, and saying, If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself. And an inscription also was written over Him in letters of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, This is the King of the Jews. But we can also see not only His anguish, but also His faith as He spoke to one of the thieves there. beginning with verse 39 of Luke 23. Then one of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed him, saying, If you are the Christ, save yourself and us. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation, and we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said to him, Surely I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. And we also see love triumphant still in death, verses 44 through 46. Now it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness all over the earth until the 9th hour. Then the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. And when Jesus had cried out in a loud voice, he said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last. In the final stanza, stanza 5, it says that thinking about Gethsemane and Calvary should prompt us to a full self-sacrifice. Then to life I turn again, learning all the worth of pain, learning all the might that lies in a full self-sacrifice. While it is good to reflect upon the suffering and the death of Christ at Gethsemane and Calvary, we cannot spend all our time just thinking of this, but must turn to life again and consider our responsibilities in view of his prayers and supplications, Hebrews 5, 7 through 9. However, by having given thought to his suffering and death, we gain a deeper insight into the nature of his grief and pain. As Isaiah 53, 4 and 5 speaks about, how he bore our grief. He carried our sorrows. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. So we conclude that just as Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross, so we also must deny ourselves and take up our cross and follow him and make a full self-sacrifice. Luke 23, 26 through 29. So while this hymn does not specifically mention the bread and the cup of the memorial feast that Jesus established, however, it is perfectly suited to prepare our minds for the Lord's Supper because it brings to our thoughts the very thing which is the purpose of this part of our worship on the first day of the week, which is to remind us of the suffering and the death of Christ. Yet the usefulness of this hymn is not limited to just the Lord's Supper, because thinking about the sacrifice of Christ will surely help me to be more faithful to him at any time when my love for Christ grows weak. Let us give thanks for the bread.
This morning's scripture reading will come from John chapter 15, verse 13. That's John chapter 15, verse 13. That's page 1243 in your pew Bible. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for his friends.
For leading our singing, Steve, and doing such a great job. And thank you, James, for a wonderful Lord's Supper devotional. I needed that. What great meaning in that song, and to tie it with the Scripture. That's what we need to do. That's our singing does. It teaches and admonishes us. And I hope that you felt the same way as we went through that. I need to take a minute before I begin my sermon. So I'm not hitting my stopwatch yet, so don't you hit yours yet, okay? Not yet. I have something I want to say. I really, really appreciate Will Smith, and I don't mean to call him out or embarrass him in any way, but I want the congregation here to know the difficult decision Will had to make yesterday as the chairman of the business meeting. He had to make a decision for the side room worship that we started last week due to the new things that have taken place in our community and with our governor. And that was a very difficult decision for him to make. We didn't have time to call a business meeting. And so how the church functions here, we essentially give the chairman of the business meeting the right to make difficult decisions at times for the men. And there's a lot of thought that goes into that. We trust Will enough to do that, and we can trust him enough. He did a great job. I think that decision needed made. That being said, it doesn't mean you necessarily agree with everything the governor said. I want you to understand that. That doesn't mean Will definitely agrees with it. I don't know where Will is on that, doesn't matter. My point is this: sometimes you make a decision as a leader for the congregation for the greater good that we're trying to accomplish. And that's all we're trying to do here, the greater good. It does not necessarily mean that we believe everything that is put forth on the media. I want you to understand that. It doesn't mean you have to buy into everything. It doesn't mean that you don't have to buy into everything. What it simply means is we're not an island. And so we, as God's people, must do the best we can. And it is very difficult. I want you to know that. It's very difficult because as many as are for something, there are that many that are against it. And you say, well, I'm vehemently against that. Well, they're vehemently for it. And so what the congregation needs to do is love one another and bear with one another. This is a very difficult time, extremely difficult. It's difficult on our nation. It's difficult on our country. It's difficult on our congregation. It's difficult on your family. You know that, decisions that you have to make. And so I just want to encourage you to support the men in the decisions they make. They are doing the best they can. And I really appreciate Will. I appreciate you so much making that very, very difficult decision for us. And I just want the congregation to know that I support Will in that, and I support our men in that. And I told you this when I first came here. As long as you don't mess with Scripture, I will do my best to support everything that's good and right. You start messing with Scripture, we're going to... But see, I know you well enough that you won't do that, and that encourages me. So let's get behind the men and Will at this point, and let's just do the best we can. Nobody likes it. I guarantee you don't like your mask. I don't like them either. I'm going to shoot mine on a target when this is all done, okay? But until then, we got to wear them. We got to do the best we can to help each other. Let's just be patient with one another and love the Lord with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourself. And in doing so, the law and the prophets will hang on those two. All right, now you can start your stop clock, okay? I am so glad that you're with us today. I'm so glad that God has granted us the ability and the opportunity to gather together. I want to make you aware of a couple of things that are coming up. I have a really cool door knocking thing, and you say, door knocking at a time like this won't work. It won't work, so that's why we're not going to knock any doors. What I'm going to do is have these out in the foyer by next week. I need to put our email address on here so they can ask a question. And all I would like you to do is take this little door hanger. Stephen asked me today, why does that thing have a hole in it, Dad? That is for a door hanger. You can hang it on someone's door. You might want to do it with a glove, okay? Or you might want to do it with hand sanitizer. But just, if you feel so compelled to do it, it's an opportunity to evangelize in your community. When you take your walk, when you go out to feed your dog, whatever it may be, hang this on your neighbor's door. If you have 3 neighbors you want to hang it on them. If you want to hand it to somebody, hand it to them. What it is, it's going to have our email address on the back, and it's going to simply say, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at this email address. It's not going to have much information about the church. You're like, wait a minute, Rodney, that's no good. Well, I think it is good in this regard. I've done some research on this and what some other congregations are doing, and I like it. So what it says is, why are there so many churches? That's all we're asking the question, why are there so many churches? It is going to go hand in hand with a sermon, Bible class I did a couple of weeks ago that linked them to a World Video Bible School site that answers that question. Now, some people will get this and they'll say, oh, give me a break. And they'll throw it in the garbage. That's great. It's okay. They have that right, don't they? But don't we have the right to at least let them know why there's so many churches? Because there are going to be those people that are going to say, well, that's kind of cool. There's a QR code on here. I'm going to scan it. And that'll take them right to the video. They also can look down here and ask a question. They also can go to World Video Bible School website, find many DVDs and online lessons that are free for them to watch. And all you have to do is hang it on their door. You can hang it there at midnight if you don't mind taking a chance on getting shot. And just don't even knock the door. Don't even say anything to them. And just that way, if they get it, they get it. If they want to throw it away, they can throw it away. You may want to go to a store and put some under windshield wipers, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But I'm going to make these available. They will be available next week out there on that table. Nobody will know but you and the Lord. If you don't want to take any, walk past them. If you want to take 100, there'll be 100 there for you to take, okay? That's just a little spiel on that to give us an opportunity to evangelize. Second thing I want to make you aware of, I'm going to lay 2 DVDs on that back table today. One is Abortion. It's called Abortion, A Woman's Right, ? The other one is A Woman's Choice. Now, I want to see how this goes, so I didn't order 1,000 copies of these, okay? But what I thought is you may have a friend that you talked about, because this was huge in our election this year. So people are thinking about this. And I kept 2 back because I have a lady I'm giving these to tomorrow. Her and I already stand together on abortion. But what it may be an opportunity, not for you to argue with somebody about abortion, but it may be a door opener. You know, aren't you so frustrated with abortion? Yeah, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I have a DVD I'd like to share with you. It's kind of a great DVD. It's well done, and let me know what you think of it. And watch it, and then these are phenomenal on abortion, okay? It gives you an opportunity. If they're taken and you say, hey, I didn't get one, Rodney, let me know. We'll get them for you, okay? I just didn't want to order a bunch and overwhelm you with them. The next thing I need to do is, and this can be controversial, so bear with me on this, okay? It's titled a Separation of Church and State, big question mark. This is huge right now, all right? Dave Miller did a phenomenal job on this. Why am I making this? Because you can open up a door for conversation with people about this. Some people are like, there is no separation of church and state. Others are like, everybody should be separated by church and state. And all you can say is, you know what, you ought to check out this DVD. It has some good information on it, whether you agree with it or not. Huh? How's that for a non-threatening way to do things? I'm telling you, if you haven't seen this thing is phenomenal. You need to watch it. I'm going to put 2 of those back there. If they go and you don't get one, let me know. I may have access to some more of those, okay? All they are door openers. I don't want to argue with anybody. I don't want to fight with anybody. If they don't like it, they can pitch it or give it back to me, okay? This literally cost us $1.20 per DVD. To me, that's well worth it if we find somebody that is interested in it. It's good material, guys. We have an ability to do it right now more than ever, so let's use that ability. Lay a couple of them back there, and you let me know if we can get more for them, okay? That's all I have to say regarding that. Let's jump in to the preposterousness of Calvary. I appreciate all the comments that you've been giving me regarding this series. I know that sometimes these can be challenging lessons because they're about the cross. Sometimes we don't feel as lifted up when we think about what Jesus went through. But then again, when we really view Calvary, we are lifted up because He was lifted up. And because He's lifted up, all men can be drawn to Him, John chapter 12. I think about Judas betraying Jesus. What low feelings that must have given Jesus. What low esteem that must have given Jesus. His very friend betrayed Him. Peter had denied Him. The 10 other apostles scattered. 4 puppet rulers, Annas, Caiaphas, Pilate, and Herod, judged the judge. And they deeply respected Sanhedrin, had become a Jewish lynch mob. Jesus had gone through the most horrific scenes He could have ever gone through. Thursday night into Friday morning, He went through the trials, and all these trials had pointed to the illegalities of what went on in Jesus' life, and in most of all, these 6 trials He went through. 3 from the Roman side, 3 from the Jewish side that we looked at the last 2 weeks. I want to share with you today the fact that beyond any reasonable doubt, Jesus was innocent. We know that. We know that He had to die for our sins, but I want you to notice as we go through this, there were illegalities, things that should have never happened, that were unfair, that were not able to be answered with a logical answer. They were not right. They were unfair. They were social injustices. And you know what? When I see the Lord through these eyes, it helps me to deal with some of the so-called social injustice. You say, Rodney, why'd you say so-called? Because what my Lord went through, compared to what we go through today, we go through nothing compared to what He went through. Now, I don't have PowerPoint today. I do have one ready, but we're updating the computer. You know how electronic devices can be. So I'm going to go slow so you can get these. There are a number of them. Jesus was never acquitted in His arrest, His trials, and His final steps to Calvary. He was treated completely unfair. What were some of these illegalities? Well, you won't read them right directly from the Scripture. Some of them you will, some of you won't. We have to go back to a little bit of Jewish history. in order to do that. And I'm grateful for a man by the name of Albert Edersheim, who wrote a book titled Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, A History of the Calvary. It's a very thick book, but in that book he deals a lot with what we're going to deal with today. There were some other sources for my resources as well, but he primarily helped guide this lesson, and I appreciate his work in that great book. He was an expert when it came to Jewish law, and so he brought forth some of the things that I had never even really thought of until I read the book. Let's share some of those together today. What were the illegalities of Calvary? Number one, and you know me, I'm big on 3 points, and then that's it. 4 at the most, but today I have more than that, but we're going to touch them briefly, but you're going to get them. You're going to see the illegalities. Number one, he was arrested without a formal charge. That is number one on your skeleton outline. He was arrested without a formal charge. Now, as you write that down, and when you get it written down, we go to Luke chapter 22 to note this carefully. When you read over it, sometimes we miss these. I know I did. I missed some of these, and I was amazed as I studied this as to how they came about. So he was arrested without a formal charge. Look at Luke 22, verse 47 beginning, and we'll go all the way through 54. Luke 22, verse 47 beginning. Luke 22, verse 47. And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude, and he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. Remember the sign he said he would give to them? You give me 30 pieces of silver, I'll give him a kiss. But Jesus said unto him, Judas, verse 48, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? When they which were about him saw what would follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite with the sword? And one of them smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said unto him, Suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him. Now the other accounts give us a little more. We know that was Peter that pulled the sword. We knew it was the high priest's servant, Malchus, the man's name that Peter cut his ear off. Jesus puts his ear back on, verse 52. Isn't that easy to read over when you're reading? He put his ear back on. Think about that for a minute, and then let's move on. 52. Then Jesus said unto the chief priests and captains of the temple and the elders that were with him, that were come to him, But ye came out against a thief with swords and staves? When I was daily with you in the temple, ye stretched forth no hands against me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness. Then they took him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. I want you to notice that. They came and did what? They arrested him and never gave him a formal charge. Now, I want you to quickly put yourself in the footprints of Jesus today. As we walk the last mile of the way, how would you feel this afternoon if you were driving home from worship and a policeman stopped you and pulled you out of the car, put you in handcuffs, and put you in his cruiser and said, We're going down to the local prison today? Wouldn't you want to say, wait a minute, for what are you doing this, right? And I promise you, you would have every right to know why. In fact, he would have to give you the formal charge. He would have to set forth some evidence right on the scene for that formal charge. And then, thanks to men and women who've given their lives for our country, he would have to read you what is called your Miranda rights. And you would have the opportunity to either speak or be silent, but you would know why you were being detained, right? Sometimes they will detain a person and they'll say, we're only detaining you until we figure out what's going on here, right? Because why? They don't have a formal charge yet. They came and got Jesus and arrested him and brought him before his trials without a formal charge. They had to give him that formal charge, and yet they did not do that. He was never really told why they took him. Now, he knew. I'm not saying he didn't know, but they never really told him why we're coming to get you at this point. Number two, and we will move through these, a little bit quickly for time's sake. Number two, he was interrogated before a private person. Now, this may not be a big deal to us in our country today. Looking at this, we sort of miss this point. But he was interrogated, number two, before a private person. If you have your Bibles, go to John chapter 18, and I want you to notice who he was brought before. Now, we looked this last week, but I didn't give you any insight into it because, well, I gave you just a little bit of insight, but I didn't want to go into detail because of this point. He was interrogated before a private person. Look at John 18, verses 12 through 14. Then the band and captains and officers of the Jews took Jesus and bound him and led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews that it be expedient that one man should die for the people. Hold on a second, Rodney. What's the problem here? What's the illegality here? Annas had nothing to do with this trial. Period. He had nothing to do with it. You say, wait a minute, then why was he brought before Annas? Why was this such a big deal? They simply, if you remember this lesson from our time when we dealt with Annas, they simply wanted to get his stamp of approval on it. He had nothing to do with it. He was not the high priest. Now, by the Jews he was. Remember, the Jews appointed a high priest for life, but when Rome took over, what did they do? They put in their own little puppet high priest, which was Caiaphas, and it was no longer Annas. Legally, Annas had nothing to say about this trial. Legally. Because you remember, the Jews are going to bring him before all the Roman authorities. They have no right, really, to bring him before the Jews. But why they do it, they want Annas to give him his stamp of approval. That was illegal. That was not acceptable. That was not acceptable. Think about you today. You are arrested and you're brought before the retired county sheriff. How does that make you feel? Wait a minute, what does the retired county sheriff have anything to do with why I'm being arrested? I'm not standing before the retired county sheriff, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, he's not in authority anymore. I don't want to hear from him. All right? That's exactly what took place here. There was no legal reason why Jesus was taken to Annas. He was not the high priest, and he should not have been in the process at all. Now, that may not fire up your system too bad. You might say, well, that was kind of a formality. We're talking about a trial here, okay? We're not just talking about a trial where someone's going to be fined and then released on bail. We're talking about a capital offense. That's what they're going to charge him with, and that is an illegality. Number three, his judges originated the charges. Number three, his judges originated the charges. All right, so while you're writing that down, we go to Matthew 26. I know it makes it a little bit more challenging without PowerPoint, but if you miss any of these, you can pull myself or my wife off, and we'll give you the points. I say my wife is because she kind of is pretty good at keeping up with me, and sometimes she'll ask me, but she usually gets them. So Matthew 26, I want you to look at verse 57 beginning. Matthew 26, verse 57. His judges originated the charges, and they that had laid hold on Jesus led him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priests and the elders and all the council, look at what they're doing, sought false witnesses against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet they found none. At least came to false witnesses. Now, I want you to notice this. These are the guys that are he's going to stand before. And what are they doing? They're trying to get the charges. They're trying to bring up the charges before him. Is that how it works in a penal system? Is that how it works? The judge comes up with the charges, or in this case, the judges come up with the charges? No, the judge sits on his bench, if you will, with his gavel in hand, and he is the what? Supposed to be the unbiased listener. That's what a judge does. He listens to the defense, he listens to the offense, or whatever you want to say. He listens to both proceedings, and then he does what? He makes his ruling. Now, in our system, we have a jury of 12, and that jury often makes a suggestion to the judge. We find this man not guilty. We find this man guilty, but it's not the judge who says, oh, and by the way, no, that's not how it works. That's an illegality. If the judge did that today, you know what the case would be thrown out? It would be thrown out quickly. It would be absolutely called a mistrial. That does not work in our system, and nor did it work in their system? Listen carefully to what Mr. Edersheim says regarding this. The Sanhedrin, according to Jewish law, did not and could not originate charges. That was against their very system. The Sanhedrin, the Jews, they couldn't do it, nor would they ever do that in any other case. They would not have done that. But they were biased against Jesus. They wanted Him to die no matter what, and evil will do whatever it takes to win. All right, remember that. They don't play fair. Number 4, Jesus was tried at night. We sometimes forget about this. I wanted to paint the picture every time I talked about this. Friday morning early, late Thursday night. These were proceedings that took place at night. Matthew 26 and verse 74, it's very clear the hour when this happened. Remember, we just heard a great Lord's Supper devotional on this. In the twilight, as the twilight fades, what's going on here? We're late Thursday night into Friday morning, and that's when He's brought before that. Now, according to the Talmud is essentially the law that the Jews would sort of write commentaries on, and it was taken from the law of Moses. It was given by these real Jewish authorities of that day. The Talmud says this, and I quote, "The Sanhedrin," remember the Sanhedrin? 70 men, elders, priests, and scribes. Number 71 is the high priest. The Sanhedrin is forbidden from convening between the time of the evening and morning sacrifice. They can't convene. They can't come together during that time. Also, in a book, great book, titled Jesus Before the Sanhedrin, M.M. Lemon says this, and I quote, "No session, including a preliminary examination," he goes so far as to say, "of the court could take place before the offering of the morning sacrifice." Now, I don't want to bore you with all this Jewish law, and I hope that's not the case. What I want you to see is the illegalities of Jesus. He wasn't allowed to be there that night. He wasn't supposed to be before the Sanhedrin. Does that not get you blood flowing? Doesn't that boil you a little bit? That whether He was guilty or not, you and I know He wasn't guilty. You and I know He was the sinless Son of God. But even if you were an atheist here this morning and said, "I don't believe in that Jesus," it still wasn't fair what they did to Him. To stand before the Sanhedrin at night like this, and remember, it was all a ploy to get Him pushed through the legal system so they could get Him crucified before they ate the Passover. They didn't want to be defiled with a man's blood. They wouldn't go into a Gentile court, remember? Wouldn't go into Pilate's court because we're just the greatest Jews in the world. This is important for us to understand. This was unfair. This was socially unfair. It was not right. You will not find a logical answer why this happened. Let me tell you something. There is often things in our lives that happen that aren't right. You know what impresses me at this point about Jesus? He never pulled this card. He never pulled the card to say, do you think Jesus knew the Sanhedrin couldn't convene at night? Let me tell you something. Anything that was written of Jesus was written in the law, the Psalms, and the prophets concerning Him. He knew it. He knew Jewish law like the back of His hand. He was the master of Jewish law. He knew what they were doing was illegal, and He never said it. That blows my mind. I'm not saying we can't appeal to the law of the land at times to claim things aren't right. I'm not saying that. I believe that with all my heart. We're free Americans. And there are times when I will appeal to American law, but Jesus did not appeal to Jewish law. He appealed to a higher court, the court of His Father. And He went through this. This is amazing to me. Number 5, Jesus was tried on a preparation day. John 18 and verse 28. I'm merely going to give you those verses, write them down for time's sake. John 18, 28. This was a preparation day for the feast of the Passover. What did the Passover represent? It represented the Jews leaving Egypt. Remember, when they left Egypt, God said, "I want you to do the Passover," Exodus 12, "and I want you to sprinkle the blood on the doorposts, and I want you to remember this, and I want you to eat this lamb. I don't want you to break a bone of it." It was definitely symbolic of Jesus, 1 Corinthians 5 and verse 7. But still, nonetheless, this was done on a preparation day. Now, the Mishnah. I'm going to quote the Mishnah now. What in the world is the Mishnah, Rodney? Giving us words here that you're like speaking Chinese or something. I'm not, really. The Mishnah is simply this. It is the oral copy of the Talmud. Okay, so the Talmud was written, and what they would do is they would speak the Talmud and write, or they would talk about the Talmud, and it was kind of like almost a commentary set on the Talmud and what it meant. And they would do this in the temple when they would come together to worship, and these Jews and scribes would go over this, and so it was kind of like something they would hand down to generation after generation. That's the Mishnah. Here's what it says. They shall not judge on the eve of the Sabbath, nor on any festival. Passover was one of the three major festivals, feasts of the Jews' day. I mean to tell you what, every Jew celebrated the Passover. And what they did was absolutely illegal. I quote The Martyrdom of Jesus, a book by Isaac Wise, who says the following. A Jewish rabbi provides decisive evidence. No court, he was a Jewish rabbi, no court of justice in Israel was permitted to hold sessions on the Sabbath or on any of the 7 biblical holy days, In cases of capital crime, listen carefully, no trial could be commenced on Friday or the day previous to any holy day, because it was not lawful either to adjourn such cases longer than overnight or to continue them on the Sabbath or holy day. You remember last week, I believe it was, I said they wanted to push this thing through because if not, they'd had to wait 7 more days. Well, they pushing something through that they couldn't push through. It was illegal. They knew this, and they didn't care about the law. They cared about their agenda. That is surprising and amazing to me. Number 6. Jesus' capital offense trials was concluded in mere hours. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. A capital case. Someone is going to the electric chair in our system today, or I believe it's lethal injection in many places now. Somebody is going to go before the lethal injection or the electric chair. They're going to die for the crimes they've committed. How long a process in America does that take? A day? A month? Years. Whoever said that is exactly right. It takes years and years and years. And there's reasons for that. There's a lot of appeals that sometimes shouldn't take place. But remember, if you're on that chair ready to die, you probably want all the appeals you can get. Not only that, we want to make sure, right, that we put the lethal injection in the right guy. There have been times when we have missed it, and sorry about that. We'll take the lethal injection back out of you, but it won't have any effect. You're still dead. Innocent guy dies. We don't want that to happen. We're a little bit compassionate and sympathetic about that, right? So we want to make sure we've got the guy. We want to make sure that his crimes fit the bill and that he is the one. Not Jesus. Again, in the Mishnah, I quote, a criminal case resulting in the acquittal of the accused may terminate the same day on which the trial began. They could have acquitted him here. In mere hours, they could have acquitted him. That means let him go. But they didn't. But, they say, if a sentence of death is to be pronounced, it cannot be concluded before the following day. Well, that's nice of them, right? Give them a day and a half to pronounce him guilty. They didn't even do that. This is Friday morning, and he hung on Calvary, just a few hours after this. They didn't wait. They pushed this thing through. Number 7. There were inadequate witnesses. Let's not forget this. There were inadequate witnesses. What happens today if I'm brought before a court of the people, my jury is sitting there, my judge is in on his bench, and they bring me before, and Doug steps up and says, I saw him do it. I saw him on Tuesday evening go down there and steal that donut from the donut shop. And they're going to hang me for that, which, if I didn't have a mask on, they probably would have hung me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, I'm going to be hung for the donut. Okay. And then Paul steps forth. Paul says, that's right. Thursday evening, I was sitting in Dunkin' Donuts, and I saw Rodney walk in and steal that donut. You know what happened? I just say, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. because Doug just accused me of Tuesday night, and little do you fellows know, I wasn't in the donut shop on Tuesday night. You could pull the surveillance tape. It was Wednesday afternoon I was in there. You guys got your days messed up. You know what they'll say? Oh, Rodney, I hope you enjoyed the donut. Put your mask on next time before you order one. See ya. It would be a mistrial. Now, there might be appeals and, there might be all kinds of stuff, but the point is, the witnesses have to agree, right? The witnesses have to agree. Matthew 14, they don't agree. 56 through 59, they didn't agree. And here's what I want to show you real quickly. Deuteronomy 17:6. This is amazing. This is amazing. Let's go back real quickly to the old law. Let's use God's old law that these people were experts in, by the way. And forgive me, I don't want to be sarcastic in this. It comes across a little sarcastic, but it's a little frustrating more than anything that they knew the law, but they didn't care about it. Deuteronomy 17:6, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. Now, did they have 3 witnesses that agreed? No, they didn't. They finally had 2 come forth, but even that charge wasn't really the original charge. We'll see that in a minute. But they couldn't find 2 witnesses that agreed. They tried. They brought forth all kinds of people. You know what? He should have been acquitted, shouldn't he have? He should have been left go. Next. Let's see. We're up to number 7. No, we're up to number 8. My apologies. Number 8. Jesus was asked to accuse himself. Now this is Matthew 26, 63 through 68. Here is what is interesting. Do you know how you, as an American, don't have to accuse yourself? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, right? But you can keep your mouth shut. You don't have to say a word. That's part of your Miranda rights. We say, boy, it's great to be an American. It is great to be an American, but let me tell you something. That wasn't only with America. Listen carefully. Jewish law strictly forbade an accused person from further accusing himself. Jesus didn't have to answer them. He didn't have to accuse himself any further. You remember when they said, "Are you the Son of God?" And he said, "Well, you said it." "Oh, there it is. We don't have any need of any more witnesses." He didn't have to say that. And even if he did, they really didn't have to take it as that. But again, they're trying to push him through to kill him for no good reason. Number 9. The indictment against Jesus was false. It was false. Now, this is going to be a technical one, but you've got to see this. This is what Bible study does for us. I want you to go to Mark 15 real quickly. And I know we're running short on time. We're going to make it, though. Mark 14 and verse 58. Okay, here's what they said. "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another one made without hands.'" Well, that sounds good, right? He's going to destroy the temple. Let's crucify him. Let's just open our Bibles to John 2 and verse 19. Let's just pull the cell phone footage of the recording of Jesus' words, and let's find what Jesus really said. John 2 and verse 19. I feel like a lawyer. Do I look like a lawyer today? Can I be a lawyer just for a little bit? "Oh, I'm sorry there, Mr. So-and-so on the bench, but you misquoted my Lord." John 2 and verse 19. "Jesus answered and said unto them, 'Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.'" Now I want you to notice. You say, wait, what's the difference here? All right, notice this carefully. Jesus did not say, "I will destroy this temple." He said, "Destroy this temple." That's like saying, if an earthquake took that temple away in 3 days, I'd raise it up again. I'm not saying I'm going to create an earthquake, right? Jesus didn't say, "I will destroy that temple." He said, "Go ahead, destroy that temple. I'll raise it up again in 3 days." But that's not all that's said. He never said that it's made with hands. He never said that. Nor did he say, "I'll build another one made without hands." These subtle differences completely change the meaning of his statement. The false witnesses knew this. They portrayed Jesus, listen to the way they portrayed him, as destroying the physical temple in Jerusalem. Was that what he even meant? Was that anything what John recorded in John 2? If you read that, he says, "But this he didn't speak of that temple." I'm going to paraphrase. He spoke concerning his body. He never said anything about the temple by way of destroying it. He simply said, if you destroyed that temple, it wouldn't really matter because I would raise it up in 3 days. What was he talking about? The physical temple? No, he wasn't talking about the physical temple. He was talking about his body. It was a false charge against him. The indictment was false. And there's another part I want you to notice here. Matthew 26, and I'm only going to reference 62 through 66 for time's sake. The high priest's question that was asked to Jesus in Matthew 26, and you can look at this, it was completely unrelated to the indictment brought against him by the false witnesses. What was the charge? What was the original indictment? He said, destroy the temple and I'll build it in 3 days. What did the high priest ask him? Are you the Son of God? Are you the Son of God? Wait a second here. We're talking about tea in China. What does that have anything to do with it? Right? There are two separate, complete things. He's brought in on an indictment that he said he would destroy the temple, which he never said that, not the physical temple. He said, destroy this temple and I'll build it up in 3 days. In other words, you kill me, I'm coming back from the dead in 3 days. But the point is this. He never was asked at that point, are you the Son of God? But now the high priest changes the whole thing. Now all of a sudden he's standing before him with a completely different charge. Are you the Son of God? Now let's hold on to that one. Number 10. Jesus did not blaspheme. Remember that they said, oh, he said he was the Son of God. That's blasphemous. Go back quickly with me to Leviticus 24. Leviticus 24, you talk about injustice. You ungodly, circumcised Jews. They were circumcised, but not circumcised of heart, right? They were so calloused and so cold. Look at Leviticus. I'm sorry. If I said Luke, forgive me. Leviticus 24, 13 to 16. The priestly handbook talks about blasphemy. I want you to notice it. The Lord spake unto Moses, verse 13 of Leviticus 24, bring forth him that hath cursed without the camp, and let all heard him lay their hands upon him, and let all the congregation stone him. Thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, whoever curses his God shall bear his sin, and he that blasphemes the name of the Lord, he shall be put to death. And all the congregation shall surely stone him, as well as the stranger, he that's born in the land. Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death. Dude, what is blaspheming the name of the Lord? You probably know this well because you probably hear it every single day. About 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, bulletin article talking about the name of God. Do you know that when they used it flippantly, that was blaspheming the name of God? Saying that you were the Son of God was not, notice, according to Jewish law, was not blasphemy. He claimed to be the Messiah. He was convicted or indicted on one charge. The charge was twisted, and then that charge wasn't even a legitimate charge. Max Radin, a former professor and author of the book, The Trial of Jesus of Nazareth, reveals why this testimony was not blasphemous. And I quote, the blasphemy which the Pentateuch, first 5 books of the Old Testament, mentions the literal cursing of God or a direct defiance of Him. The only Pentateuchal reference makes this clear in Leviticus 24, which we just read. The incident gave rise to the statute indicating the character of the offense of blasphemy in Jewish law. And so what he's saying is he never really blasphemed according to Jewish law. So they're trying to kill him for something he never even really did that was illegal. I don't know about you, but that's frustrating to me. All right, let's move on. I don't have time to be frustrated. Number 11. And I've only got this one and one more, so bear with me. The high priest rent his clothes. Do you remember from Matthew 26:65? The high priest got so mad and he rent his clothes. When we were studying this, I said to you, hold on to that little nugget. We'll come back to it. We're coming back to it. If you're into Leviticus, go to 21, chapter 21. Leviticus 21 and verse 10. Leviticus 21 verse 10, and the Word of God says, and he that is the high priest among his brethren, among whose head the anointing oil was poured, and that is consecrated to put on the garment, shall not uncover his head, nor rend his clothes. Do you find that astounding? There is an absolute reference to, by the way, high priest, you better not be ripping your clothes. You better not be having your head uncovered. And when you do, you are going against law. So what happened? They bring a lawbreaker in, and now we're going to rip our clothes? Let me tell you, it's like a judge saying, "You are so guilty, I can't stand you." And he's like pulling his defender out from under him and he's shooting him right there in the courtroom, right? Well, who's the worst offender there? Let me tell you, I don't care what the guy did that's standing before him. The judge shouldn't have pulled the weapon and shot him, right? Absolutely. Number 12, once the charge was made, Jesus was never given an opportunity to defend himself. Matthew 26 and verse 65, they said, "Here's what it is. Have we further witnesses?" "No." "What do you want to do?" "Crucify him." And they took him out and they marched him up to Calvary and they scourged him and they took him up to Calvary and they crucified him. We would call that a kangaroo court today. Can you imagine being given a charge against you and never given an opportunity to defend yourself? "But I wasn't there on Tuesday, Doug." "Paul, you're wrong. I wasn't there on Thursday. It was Wednesday morning and I paid for that donut on the app. You didn't see that, right? I'm bringing forth everything I can. I don't want to die." Jesus was never given that chance. Now, we might say, well, he probably wouldn't have anyway because he knew his Father's will. He did. And I'm thankful that he went through this, and I'm thankful to God that he died for my sins. But do you see how frustrating it can be to live a godly life before ungodly people? Brethren and friends, that's where we're at today. We are doing our best to submit to the will of God, but we are among ungodly people. They will not play fair. They will poke fun, and they will not do things that are scriptural, nor will they do things that are even kind. And do you know what we need to do? Can I just say this with love? Instead of burning and shooting and looting, we need to say, "My Lord will take care of this one day." Jesus Christ went through much more than I'll ever go through. Whether it be a silly mask, whether it be a silly, "I can't do this because of my situation in America right now with the pandemic," whether it's social injustice, listen to me carefully, whatever it is, all right, God sees it. And God will take care of it. Let me tell you, He took care of Jesus. The whole trial of Christ was illegal. And although Jesus had the ability, listen carefully, to call 12 legions of angels, Matthew 26 and verse 53, He didn't. He didn't. He could have, but He didn't. Some say the Sanhedrin and Rome had authority over Jesus, and that's what made Him walk the last mile of the way. I contest that. Rome had no authority over Him. The Sanhedrin had no authority over Him. God, His Father, was His authority. And so He marched with love and compassion and dignity to the cross before Him, and He bled and died for my sins and for yours. Greater love hath no man than this, than a man to lay down his life for his friends. Yes, even for his enemies. God so loved the world. Let me ask you, do you love Him today enough to obey Him? God gave a plan. In order to respond to that plan, I must be willing to submit to His authority, not my own. Believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Repent of your sins, confess Him before men. Be baptized for the forgiveness of sin. Christian, if you're living an ungodly life, you come back to the foot of the cross and you make your life right. Jesus went there for you so you could be right and go to heaven one day. Brethren, let's submit to God's authority. Let's be a friend to Jesus while we stand and while we sing.